back to LDB Games. I'm Lord Darthbawlz, and in this Raid Shadow Legends video, I'm going to show you how I've figured out how to auto-farm the event dungeon. For those of you that saw it, I launched a video a couple days ago on how to beat the dungeon. It wasn't a full auto team, nor was it a good success rate. Well, I did it. I've got a full auto team with, so far, flawless success rate. I mean, I think, standard 3% chance of losing would be an acceptable frame of reference. And this was a little bit on the longer side of the runs. They tend to be closer to 30 seconds. But you can see I'm still not using Nut in here, right? In my last video, I showcased how an Arena Nuker can out-damage Nut. So I've got two top-tier Arena Nukers, one of which was a free login champ. So as long as you can either have a Georgid or have a suitable replacement for him, this should be a relatively easy team to build. The other three are really here for support. Now, Lydia, free champion, not 100% necessary, but very important to this. Gurptuk is pretty necessary to this, and Duchess is just a protection and buffer booster, attack booster, right? So it's a pretty simple team, and the way it works is it leverages Sun Wukong's surplus damage, and it leverages Gurptuk's block buffs. Because in my first video, I talked about how you don't want to let KUROSA, whatever her name is, you don't want to let her change forms. But you'll notice in this version, I do let her change forms. I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with that because I do enough damage to clear it relatively quickly. There we go, 34 seconds, right? And because I am working against some of her abilities, right? So in her normal form, her kit doesn't matter because it's not who I actually end up dealing with, right? She's going to change forms, and now she not only gets an extra turn here, it's kind of insane, okay? She flips, and then she gets 3 turns. 3 turns? She essentially takes 3 turns. First, she changes into this form, and every change gets an extra turn. Then she puts 2 buffs on herself, one of them that reduces damage that we can do to her, and puts a true fear on all enemies, okay? Bad. Then she gets another turn. She gets another turn, and she strips all buffs, and you pretty much are not going to be able to resist it. Also puts a weaken on. Right, so there's 2 things that we need to do here, okay? We need to, 1, have a block buffs up. That comes from Duchess, and that takes care of the true fears. Then, we want to have a block buffs on KUROSA, so that she doesn't steal all my really good buffs. And in this, she has the potential, with this team, she has the potential of stealing unkillable. So let's play this out again, and I'll put it on 1 time speed so you can see that opening interchange between my team and the second form of this boss. Because it's really quite interesting. Because it took me a long time to figure out how to beat this boss initially, right? And the initial assumption was never let her change forms because she's devastating. But if you can counter it right, it's not a problem. So let's go 1 time speed. So first, I'm going to put block buffs on myself, right? Then I'm going to put weaken and decrease defense on hopefully everybody. Then I'm going to use Georgid's AoE, which gives him an unkillable buff if he kills somebody. And that usually takes out anywhere from 1 to all 4 of these dudes. Then I'm going to come in with Gurptuk, and I'm going to leverage his passive which gives my champion 7.5% more damage for each poison debuff on them. Now, if I wanted to min-max this, I would have him go faster than Georgid, but it doesn't really matter right now. Maybe I'll do that in the future. But that not only gives me an extra 21 times 7.5 is like 22.5% damage here. Plus, I get block buffs. Oh no. So this is the 3% chance of failing. Gurptuk's booked. He has 100% chance of placing a block buffs, and he's got enough accuracy. But I didn't land the block buffs. This is going to be a loss no matter how you cut the deck. So we'll just run that again, right? And so here we go, right? So we get our block buffs up, we get our decreased defense and weaken, we've got our AoE damage, we've got our block buffs and increased damage, and then you see Sun Wukong's hit. Now, switch forms, blocked True Fears, block buffs stops her from stealing all of mine, and now it's just a matter of time for my 2 arena damage dealers to clean up the fight. Both Georgid and Sun Wukong have very powerful single target hits. That one wasn't quite enough to clean her up, but this should be the final hit right here. Boom, done. All right, let's get into the team, their builds, important parts of their kit. It's going to be a little redundant, and then I'll get into their masteries, their presets, and we'll close it out. Let's start with our support champions, right? Duchess, like I said, she's not 100% necessary, but she brings some incredible utility to this fight. She brings the block debuffs, which is critical. She brings increased attack, which is critical. And she brings Perfect Veil, which is a really nice just damage reduction overall, plus her damage reduction passive. I use her speed aura for the rest of my team, and that blessing is for arena, not for this fight. You can see I've got her in a couple broken set, divine speed, some resistance here, kind of a basic set build. 274 speed, 3400 defense, 75k HP, 550 resistance. I built her as a resistance tank. She was not built for this fight, but this is her build. Show you her masteries. I have her down to Unshakable for the extra resistance because she doesn't need accuracy, and I love Lasting Gifts. Lasting Gifts has a chance of making her buffs from her A2 last 3 turns instead of 2, which is really nice. Some other really good utility in the support tree. Nothing super critical for this fight. For Lydia, she comes in strictly for her A2. Nothing else actually matters from her. Nothing else matters from her. But her, the chance of not landing a decreased defense and weaken here is one of the areas for a 3% loss on this team. Other than that, it's a 100% chance of landing. I've got her in all perception because I didn't just go speed. I went accuracy and I went resist. So 269 speed, 3500 defense, 57k HP, 445 resistance, and almost 500 accuracy. She's also down the defense and the support tree. I went down to Eagle Eye. However, I was able to find more resistance in my build. But again, a lot of this isn't relevant for this fight. These two are, though. Master Hexer gives us the chance of landing the decreased defense and weaken for 3 turns instead of 2. And Lasting Gifts allows the chance to get 3 turns on the buffs she puts, the strengthen and the speed. Now, where Master Hexer really comes into play, because if you remember, KUROSA gets 3 turns after you force her to change forms, which means she'll knock away all the debuffs you land. Master Hexer gives us a chance to have a weaken or a decreased defense remain beyond KUROSA's 3 turns. Now, Gurptuk is a pretty important part of this team, okay? And he's important because of his A3 and his passive. And his A3 needs to be booked. It is a 100% chance when booked of placing a block buffs on all enemies for 2 turns. And this is another area where we have a 3% chance of failing. Because if I don't land the block buffs, it means KUROSA is going to steal the unkillable, the block buffs, the increased attack, the strength and the speed, all the good stuff that I put on my team to set it up. And his passive comes in for the damage amplification. I talked about this a little bit while we were watching the runs. Every poison debuff he puts on an ally, or every poison they're under, I should say, it inflicts an extra 7.5% more damage. Now the max is 30%, but we only get these 3 poisons from his A3, which also does the block buffs. Right, we get those 2.5% poisons on all allies for 3 turns. And so there is the 22.5% damage increase that we get. I've got Brimstone on him, but it doesn't really come into play here. It could, but it's a minimal effect. It's if it goes on a little longer than normal. Now I have him built in Stalwart to help mitigate some of the damage he takes and keep him alive. In terms of his stats, I've got him running 217 speed. He could be a little faster. Maybe I'll glyph him to be faster than Georgid and run it again before I finish this video. But he's got enough accuracy to do the job, 3,500 defense and 65k HP. Then we've got our 2 damage dealers. I pretty much went over Georgid's kit already, but the reason I love this guy so much, and I'll pin to the video that I have just breaking down him, is his passive gives him a 50-50 chance of ignoring 50% of the target's defense. Savage gives you a 25%, ignores 25% of enemy defense, and when you go down to Helm Smasher, you've got another 50-50 chance of ignoring 25%. Which means, with perfect RNG, every single one of George's skills has the chance of ignoring 100% defense. Monster. So, I've got him crit capped, obviously, 219 speed, 6,600 attack, and 291 crit damage for the damage. I'll just show you his masteries again. You can see here, right, like I said, I went down to Helm Smasher. I took a number of other things as well, right? Every time his A1 is used, which has a chance of repeating the hit, and it's a big hit A1, damage done for each enemy killed, which increases his damage based on that first AoE. But you can play around here. A lot of these are not like have to take it as is. You can kind of play around with some of them based on where else you might use these champions in the game. So on Wukong, don't look at his banner. I don't have a banner. Please don't look at his banner. I don't need accuracy for this fight, so it doesn't matter. I've got him in lethal, so he's also ignoring 25% defense on his mains. And his A2 is really where he comes into play big time, right? Georgid weakens up the minions and sets up Sun Wukong's A2. Now this ignores 50% of the target's defense, plus lethal that makes 75. What do you know? I also have Helm Smasher on him for a chance of a 100% defense ignore. But when he kills somebody, he attacks everyone else with the remaining surplus damage, and that also ignores 50% of the target's defense. Now, this attack can't be critical, but surplus damage in this game is insane. It is typically some of the highest damage multipliers you can find. Outside of that, nothing else really matters. His A1 and his A3 do some serious damage, which come into play. I've got him 196 speed, crit capped, 5400 attack, 240 crit damage, so not a crazy build by any stretch of the imagination. And just to show you a little different from Georgid, but offense, defense, trees, and like I said, you can play around with these. I think I went with Opportunist. No, there was something I took. Oh no, I didn't take it. You could, if you wanted to, go for Stoke to Fury on both Georgid and what's his name? Sun Wukong, who I'm looking at here, for the extra damage that you'd get for Gurptuk's poisons. That's an extra 12% damage on both. But I opted to go for Methodical because that A1 hits like a monster truck, and I'm not in the business of resetting masteries for one piece of temporary content. There we go. All right. Gurptuk is officially faster than Georgid. So let's look at the preset real quick, because you do need a preset in this. Duchess, you don't need to do anything. Lydia, you don't need to do anything. Gurptuk, you do want to make sure he opens with his Cloud of Spores. It should be his AI, but that's just a safety precaution. For Sun Wukong, I have him opening with Staff of Wonder. This is the skill that helps me do as much damage as possible before she changes forms. And Georgid, I want him opening with his AoE. His AI will use Deadly Ballad, but I want to save that for the main boss, because this does a truckload of damage along with his A1. His A2 is an AoE and helps me reduce the damage and kill most of the little minions that the boss gets. And that's the setup for Sun Wukong, right? Because his A2 does surplus damage based on extra damage, like if you kill somebody, right? You do surplus damage, right? So we'll watch it one more time. We'll see if I've totally wrecked. Not bad. Okay. Oh, sweet. This is going to be faster. Oh, yes. How fast can I? This is it. 20 seconds? Oh, so close. What? 30 seconds. So maybe not that much faster, but a little bit faster. 25 seconds. The 10-second was a manual run, so that doesn't count. But you can see Georgid coming in with the lion's share of the damage. So that's what I got, guys. Has this worked for you? Did this help? Hopefully, if you don't have some of these champions, the strategy can help you put together a team of your own. I think really the biggest inhibitors would be Georgid and Gurptuk. But Gurptuk was a fusion. Sun Wukong was a free login. Lydia's a free champion. Duchess might be someone you have to find a replacement for, but a good block buffs with an increased attack, and you're good there. I'm Lord Darthbawlz. Thanks for watching the video. If you've made it this far, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe button on the way out. And I'll catch you all in the next video. Enjoy your raid.